Hello, sleepy voyagers. Tonight, your mission returns to the mighty giant, Jupiter, the storm king of our solar system. Beneath swirling clouds and endless winds, a rhythm as old as time pulses through gas and light, waiting to cradle you in calm. Before we lift off, tap like so this journey finds you again, and subscribe to join our crew for nightly voyages. Drop a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing our galaxy of listeners glowing from every corner of Earth. Now take a moment to dim the lights, lower your screen brightness, and if you like, turn on a gentle fan for that steady hum in the background. This isn't just a story, it's your piece, unfolding beneath the planet that never stops turning. When you're ready, close your eyes. You've arrived at Jupiter. For as long as anyone has watched, the storm has never stopped. Those words come from scientists studying the Great Red Spot, a storm that survived empires, revolutions, and our entire recorded history. Tonight, you'll hover just above its rim, witness its ceaseless rotation, and hear what persistence sounds like when translated into slow, measured calm. The storm endures so you can finally rest. A faint golden hue ripples beneath you as your craft eases from shadow into orbit, the light changing from the deep violet of distant space to a slow, molten glow. Jupiter fills the void ahead, an endless, spiraling surface that turns below like a silent ocean caught in perpetual motion. For a long time, it feels as though nothing is happening, only the quiet hum of instruments and your own steady breath. But then the horizon curves, vast and sure, and you realize it is not the light that moves. It is Jupiter itself, rotating faster than any world of its size should. The planet's day passes in less than 10 hours, yet what you see feels unhurried. Bands of soft amber and muted cream flowing from east to west in perfect calm. You settle above the equator, and the perspective reshapes itself. From infinite darkness, your eyes adjust to the expanse of gas and vapor unfolding below. The atmosphere spreads outward, smooth and luminous, the colors bleeding into one another, the way sound fades after the last note of a distant bell. This is a world 11 times wider than Earth, and everything about it moves with quiet intent. The rotation is so quick that its equator bulges outward, yet from here that speed dissolves into serenity. You drift in stillness while the giant turns beneath you, a contrast so pure it slows your thoughts until they match its rhythm. Across the top of this immense world, shadows advance and retreat in steady formation. The planets tilt and spin, create alternating waves of light, painting the cloud tops with an unending pattern of dusk and dawn. One side glows with gold where sunlight strikes ammonia wisps suspended high in the atmosphere, while the opposite fades into deep gray, the color of rest. Both meet along a thin circular line that travels quicker than any sunrise on Earth. Watching it move is like watching time itself accelerate while you stand unmoving. The clouds themselves carry shape only from movement. They fold and drift in streaks that seem deliberate, though no hand or wind directs them in a way the human eye can follow. Hydrogen and helium mix the layers. Ammonia crystals define the brighter zones, while traces of darker compounds stain the belts that divide them. Together they resemble woven fabric pulled by steady jet streams hundreds of kilometers wide, each running opposite its neighbor without ever colliding. The orderliness of it feels unnatural in its perfection, yet endlessly soothing. You sense the tension between immense mechanical force and the calm geometry it produces. Your breathing slows as your craft aligns itself with the terminator, the boundary between day and night. Separation and transition become the same thing here. As the planet's features drift below, the edge of darkness brushes the edge of light, never pausing, never yielding, and somehow that ceaseless motion starts to feel like rest. Within each rotation lies stillness. Within each storm's velocity lies balance. There is no edge sharper than this, no horizon that turns as gently. The hemisphere beneath brightens again as you move along the orbital path. Sunlight exposes a vast landscape with no solid ground, only pattern upon pattern, form shifting into new form. Long streaks of yellow fade into pale ivory and then unfold into faint orange, endless lines tracing the planet's curvature. The scale is so great that distance becomes abstract, almost meaningless. Every movement is swallowed by immensity. Your hand against the viewport seems impossibly small, the faint outline of your reflection merging with the reflected storms. There is comfort in this, a reminder that perspective can stretch until thought disperses like atmospheric haze. In one direction, a faint limb of light glows where the sun touches the upper atmosphere. There, the thinnest clouds drift at hundreds of kilometers per hour, circling the planet faster than any wind on Earth. Yet from here, their motion reads as tranquil rotation, a hypnotic sequence repeating endlessly as Jupiter completes another swift day. The alternation of brightness and shade becomes almost metrical, like a clock that has no sound, counting not seconds but breaths. One inhale follows another, one band follows another. You begin to measure time by the rolling of cloud shadows rather than the pulse of a machine. Your gaze drifts across the equatorial belts. Each stripe is wide enough to swallow continents, yet they bend fluidly along the planet, bordered by wind streams as stable as rails. The darker belts absorb light, the lighter zones cast it upward, producing a shimmer that looks alive. Occasionally, a soft flicker, lightning buried deep within, forms a pale phantom glow that merges back into cloud within an instant. The flash is silent, sealed behind layers of gas hundreds of kilometers thick. Still, the absence of sound does not mean the absence of presence. The storm exists, but it does not ask for attention. It continues because continuation is its nature. As the view widens, Jupiter's circumference fills the frame of the stars. The color gradients blend so subtly that the planet appears like one complete organism, each rotation feeding the balance of the next. The contrast between the restless atmosphere below and your own unmoving craft intensifies the calm that has taken hold. Stillness here is not absence of motion. It is coexistence with motion so large it cancels itself into peace. The vastness around you resists definition. The mind pauses, unable to assign proportion to something that has no obvious edge. Now the light begins to fade again. The night side comes forward, cloaking the belts in muted bronze. Against that darkness, the illuminated limb becomes fine as hair. The rotation continues, though unseen. You feel it more than you see it, the planet turning beneath your stationary orbit like a slow mechanical heartbeat. 9 hours and 56 minutes from sunrise to sunrise, yet eternity fits into each revolution. At this distance, the tempo becomes your own. Breathing deep, you match it. Inhale with the dawn, exhale with the night. For a while you drift, weight balanced between gravity's pull and orbital precision. Down below, faint lights shimmer beneath the haze, possibly reflections of lightning, possibly remnants of sunlight scattering through aerosols. Each pulse flickers and fades before its meaning reaches you. The alternating phases of brightness and shadow create illusions of breathing, as if the planet itself inhales and releases its clouds in vast, patient cycles. Gradually, the craft adjusts its orientation. The hemisphere below swings outward, the curvature revealing more of Jupiter's southern region. Between the belts, extending in a wide, pale band, something begins to take shape, an oval region tinged with muted crimson. It turns slowly, its outer edge blending into the surrounding clouds, barely visible at first but unmistakable once the eye finds it. This is the threshold of the Great Red Spot, though from this height it appears calm, almost meditative. Its circular motion mirrors the rotation of the planet, yet moves independently, a smaller clock within a larger one. You remain poised above that edge, suspended between two scales of motion, the planet's fast spin and the deeper, slower churn of the storm below. In that balance, tension disappears. Time seems suspended. The distinction between hours and minutes softens. You become part of the same order that holds the belt steady, the same symmetry guiding shadow and light. The world beneath looks like a living mechanism tuned to a rhythm older than memory. From the viewport, Jupiter's surface now appears like a vast dial, faint bands ticking in perfect silence. Day and night sweep across it faster than thought, yet never impatiently. Everything here moves within its own measured cycle. The immense rotation creates gravity's hum, the faint pull drawing you forward, calling you closer, not downward, but inward. The descent you feel is not a fall, it is an approach toward depth, toward the storm's ancient eye, waiting quietly below. A braided pattern of amber and cream unwinds slowly beneath you, stretching farther than the mind can comfortably hold. Each band extends in unending curves, some wide as continents, others narrow and faint, but all flowing east to west, never stopping, never intersecting. They separate light from shadow so completely that the planet seems stitched together by contrasts, zones bright and high, belts dark and deep. Even from orbit, their texture carries rhythm, an alternation between brightness and dimness that feels almost alive. Yet the movement holds a calm precision, a kind of math turned visible through color and motion. The belts shift under constant force, powerful jet streams that sweep around the planet at speeds exceeding 500 kilometers per hour. These winds carve Jupiter into parallel ribbons, balancing one another in alternating directions, so that where one current heads east, the next carries west, creating a stable braid of motion stretching across the entire circumference. Unlike Earth's jet streams, which skim along the stratosphere, Jupiter's reach downward for thousands of kilometers, deep into the churning clouds below. Each carries with it layers of temperature, density, and chemistry organized by unseen mechanics, far beyond human weather, yet obeying the same basic rule. Hot air rises, cooler sinks, and balance persists. From above, the lighter zones reflect sunlight with sharp clarity. Their brightness comes from fine ammonia crystals frozen solid within the planet's uppermost cloud deck. These clouds form at altitude so cold that normal moisture would never survive, but here, ammonia vapor condenses into ice and scatters sunlight in pale, opal tones. Beneath them lie darker bands where compounds rich in carbon and sulfur gather and tint the gas seams in muted brown and gold. These belts absorb sunlight rather than reflect it, giving the surface an alternating pulse of illumination. Between the two, faint gradients appear, cream shading to ochre, ochre into sienna, transitions formed by chemical mixing and constant vertical convection. The depth of these structures defies what the eye perceives. Juno's instruments revealed that the jet streams flanking these belts extend downward about 2,000 miles. That depth means the wind patterns we see are only surface ripples of immense invisible columns of gas, moving in locked synchrony across the entire planet. Within those columns, ammonia vapor rises and falls in endless circulation. Some areas draw vapor upward, cooling it into small white crystals that feed the bright zones, while adjacent belts pull ammonia downward, exposing darker layers and letting organic compounds dominate their color. The persistence of these currents maintains the planet's signature pattern like a heartbeat, repeating its pulse. Lightning hides within the clouds, though its glow occasionally cuts through their soft opacity. A single flash down there is 100 times brighter than any terrestrial strike, yet the thickness of gas muffles the light to mere flicker. These discharges occur deep, where water, ice, and ammonia droplets collide, sharing electrical charge and releasing sudden energy. In some higher altitudes, lightning sparks appear in regions too cold for water to remain liquid, a phenomenon made possible by ammonia acting as an anti-freeze. Elsewhere, chains of electrical storms trace across the water-ice layer, buried far below, unseen but measurable in the magnetic field's reaction. The distance renders them silent. Photons reach you long before sound could ever try. The silence merges with the rhythm of rotation until each flash feels more like breath than noise. Below those quiet flashes lie thick strata of clouds stacked in 3 major layers. The upper layer, that pale shimmering surface, consists of ammonia ice. Beneath it rests ammonia hydrosulfide crystal, tinted faintly by sulfur and hydrogen compounds. Still deeper, water ice clouds intervene, their existence inferred through instrument readings of reflected energy. Between them may drift thin layers of fog, mixtures of water and ammonia suspended by convective rising. Each layer interacts with the next in a slow, constant transfer of heat and momentum. The deeper you look, the more the visible chaos gives way to patient structure. Every few minutes, your orbital drift carries you across shades that seem to move on their own. There are no abrupt edges here. The transitions blur smoothly, as though the planet exhaled color instead of gas. The belts curve and align, reconnecting beyond the horizon, unbroken after tens of thousands of kilometers. From one latitude to the next, the speed of the wind shifts slightly, enough to shear the edges and form intricate waves that migrate through the clouds. Despite the powerful forces driving them, the atmosphere holds no sound at this height. Its energy translates into pattern rather than turbulence. Watching it, you feel a response in breath and pulse, both slowing to match the vast choreography below. Ammonia, carbon, hydrogen, and water serve as both pigment and motion. Chemical reactions tint the clouds, but it is the airflow that sustains the design, an art of physics rather than chance. Each rotating band slides next to another at different velocities, but friction between them remains minimal. It's as if the atmosphere has discovered equilibrium through perpetual movement. The immense energy pouring from Jupiter's core, left over from its formation billions of years ago, replaces sunlight as the primary driver of these currents. Heat rises, gas expands, convection cells churn upward and downward in matched cycles, and an invisible order persists amid apparent turmoil. Viewed from your vantage, this alternation takes on the feel of slow, repeating pulse waves, not static repeating images, but a rhythm that carries through sight into body. The pale zones expand slightly, then fade. The darker belts narrow, then swell outward again. The repetition acts almost like a low-frequency tone, steadying and predictable, easing the mind to drift alongside it. Each east-west corridor moves forever east or west, never meeting, never distorting beyond its own long-established limits. It is a system that seems incapable of fatigue. Lightning flashes again far below, this time more diffuse, illuminating the surrounding haze from within. The orange-white glow spreads like ink beneath thin paper, shapes changing each moment. When it fades, the belt's color appears a little darker, as though the energy has stained the atmosphere itself. In this world, there is no silence from absence. There is silence because the storms are too large to make sound small enough for the human ear to hear. Energy disperses across scales unfathomable to terrestrial experience. The eyes record motion, yet the senses register tranquility. Somewhere under the visible surface, well below this ballet of clouds, the jet streams interact with hidden structures, possibly metallic hydrogen layers where pressure crushes gas into liquid. Those deeper motions anchor what happens above, giving each visible band its enduring presence. The complexity is mechanical but poetic all at once, zonal flows and convection cells locked in endless exchange, turning chaos into geometry. The longer you watch, the more the belts appear to extend not only across the planet but across thought itself, wide, hypnotic, single-minded. Soon the details begin to blur through the haze. The sharp boundaries soften, as if time itself is smoothing them, pulling the turbulent atmosphere into one united pattern. Light and darkness weave until they appear as one breathing surface. What once looked like chaos now resembles repose, motion so immense it has stilled itself into rhythm. Beneath that slow, steady alternation lies something ancient, deeper than the jet streams, slower than the winds. It is not yet visible, but its influence pervades the flow, tilting each stripe toward a faint spiral defined by age and persistence. The planet appears to inhale with each glowing zone and exhale through each darkened belt. You sense that this vast harmony originates from a singular source somewhere below, a pulse older than weather, stronger than wind. Beneath the endless tapestries of gas and light lies an eye that never closes, maintaining balance and absorbing every disturbance within its orbit. The belt's motion becomes a prelude, the surrounding music of a power gathering inward. And as your craft drifts above that faint spiral of crimson beginning to form, You recognize that these quiet bands have been leading you here from the beginning to the planet's enduring heart, the great red spot, waiting just ahead. Far below, a crimson oval turns slowly against the pale belt surrounding it, a self-contained world of motion inside an already restless atmosphere. It lies stretched across the southern hemisphere, a vast ellipse whose size eclipses anything familiar, a single storm so wide that the entire Earth could vanish within its boundaries. From above, the eye of this ancient vortex rotates in silence, its edges blurred by the wind's ceaseless circular pull. The colors shift as if stirred by invisible hands, red against rust, ochre melting into orange. It appears serene, nearly still, yet its calm conceals velocities that, closer to the surface, would shred any terrestrial wind system. Within this giant's gaze, everything moves without pause, yet nothing hurries. Its formal name, the Great Red Spot, feels insufficient for what stretches before you. For over 3 centuries, observers have watched this storm unravel and rebuild itself, surviving eras measured in generations. The earliest telescopic records marked it as a strange oval patch on a planet barely distinguishable through crude optics. Since then, it has never fully disappeared. What began as curiosity evolved into confirmation. The storm has persisted across every major advance in observation, enduring where others faded away. Beneath you, history rotates, patient, continuous, indifferent to the brevity of individual lifetimes. From this distance, the contrast between scale and stillness dominates every perception. The storm's edge forms a near-perfect circle shaped by 2 vast jet streams flowing in opposite directions. These narrow boundaries keep the vortex intact, trapping its energy within stable motion. While the surrounding belts race east and west, the Great Red Spot turns in place, its counterclockwise swirl in the southern hemisphere defining its slow, deliberate character. The equilibrium of opposing winds isolates it like a heartbeat enclosed within steady breath. Each complete rotation takes roughly 6 Earth days, but within that rotation live countless smaller whirls of activity, eddies, arcs, spirals, each repeating and dissolving again into the whole. Beneath the scarlet surface lies depth few storms could ever reach. Recent gravitational readings from near-pass probes confirm that this vortex penetrates roughly 300 miles below the visible cloud tops. The measurement reveals a structure far more extensive than any hurricane on Earth, reaching into layers where pressure transforms gas into something dense and heavy, almost liquid in behavior. There, hydrogen and helium compress under enormous weight, creating foundations that feed the storm's persistence. The absence of solid ground means no obstacle ever interrupts its circulation. Energy from the planet's interior keeps it alive. Warmth rises upward, sustaining the low-pressure center that drives motion. It does not erode or cool in the way terrestrial tempests do. It simply continues, balanced between the pull of gravity and the momentum that forever refuels it. At first, the eye seems tranquil, but focus reveals motion within motion, filaments curling outward from the heart of the storm, like veins of pigment spreading through glass. Each tone records a reaction between sunlight and compounds made in Jupiter's upper atmosphere. Ammonia interacts with trace elements such as phosphorus, sulfur, and carbon, forming chromophores that tint the clouds in subtle variations. That chemistry gives rise to color gradients unique to this single feature. Its edges are lighter, blending to salmon and tan, while the center holds deeper reds and browns that shift with altitude and exposure. Over years, the hue has fluctuated, sometimes paling toward orange, then deepening again as ultraviolet light rearranges the molecular bonds within airborne particles. The process continues invisibly, a quiet reaction translating radiation into shade, time into tone. The longer you hover, the easier it becomes to perceive tempo instead of chaos. The storm's rim curves like the path of an orbit, unwavering in its repetition. A thought emerges unbidden, the similarity between the storm's pulse and your own. Each maintains existence through circular rhythm. Each draws stability from motion, not stillness. Jupiter's atmosphere revolves in cycles, vast and slow. Your heart does the same at a smaller human scale. The storm, though incomprehensibly large, shares that same purpose: sustain life of movement, recycle energy into form. Awareness of this connection softens any sense of threat. The great red spot no longer implies danger, only endurance. Closer observation shows faint turbulence along the periphery, where yellow-white clouds stretch outward before folding back. Those features mark interfaces between the vortex and surrounding jet streams. Within them, smaller vortices spin off, temporary phenomena lasting days or weeks before merging again with the main body. The storm is not singular, but communal, a self-renewing collection of smaller systems bound by gravity and shared rotation. Encircling ammonia clouds act like threads in a fabric, stitched together by opposing momentum. The combination of structure and fluidity gives its movement a quality completely different from Earth's weather. Here, nothing collides abruptly. The energy dissipates in circular paths, and every collision births another spiral, another continuation. Wind speeds inside the spot exceed hundreds of kilometers per hour, yet such measurement is meaningless without context. The scale dilutes sensation. A single rotation could contain thousands of hurricanes nested within one another, their edges merged into seamless flow. No wave, no thunderclap ever breaks through the upper layers. All noise is absorbed into mass so dense it cannot carry recognizable sound. You witness activity beyond human duration, but entirely void of urgency. Within it resides silence through permanence. Sometimes the upper boundary shears slightly, revealing inner layers tinted with muted brick red. The eye's outer ring sharpens momentarily, then slowly diffuses again, replacing sharp boundary with haze. Light scatters differently at each altitude, so color gradients melt into one another like shifting sands seen from a great height. These transformations unfold so gradually that your perception must slow to notice them. What first seemed motionless reveals variation only when you learn to look through time longer than the instinct allows. Patience becomes perspective. The existence of this vortex for centuries may seem unnatural, but is logical when viewed through physics rather than expectation. Without land to sap energy, nothing interrupts circulation. With stable jet streams forming a cage of constantly flowing air, the internal winds cannot spread or decay. They revolve until energy equalizes at the boundaries and cycles back inward, an unbroken pattern repeating since before any telescope found it. Over that time, its circumference has contracted slightly, its color waxed and waned, yet the storm remains recognizable. This is the lifespan of planetary systems measured in calm persistence, not absence of change, but permanence through adaptation. Below you now, the reds deepen into shadow as sunlight angles across the planet. The oval's perimeter glows faintly at the edge where ammonia crystals scatter late light. The swirling patterns inside seem to slow even more, as if responding to the global rotation of Jupiter itself. Day and night sweep over the storm faster than any earthly season, yet the spot continues, neither accelerated nor delayed. Observing it feels like gazing at time made visible, a constant reminder that motion and rest coexist when scale becomes infinite. Gradually, the awareness of depth shifts once more. Gravity's pull from the planet beneath grows stronger, resonating faintly through the craft's systems. The storm's vast rotation produces variations in density detectable even from orbit, a subtle undulation that the instruments translate as a change in tone, a gentle hum that fades as position stabilizes. You become conscious not of speed or altitude, but of balance. The spot's boundaries, once sharp, now blend into the surrounding belts until distinctions blur entirely. Before long, the oval beneath no longer reads as color or structure, but as rhythm, one immense pattern breathing below you. The weird quiet that accompanies this realization is absolute. What once seemed chaotic is now symmetrical motion at peace with itself. The vortex ceases to exist as a storm. It simply continues, an unending cycle made kind through its own repetition. It becomes impossible to regard it as danger or spectacle. The longer you watch, the more its turning becomes invitation rather than warning, drawing perception inward toward the hidden calm at the center. The heart of this storm is not resistance, but surrender, a still core circled by endless movement. You drift lower, tracing the depression's faint spiral. Every kilometer brings a subtle shift in color and texture until the upper haze veils the craft's view. Within the silent geometry of this ancient eye, time disappears, replaced by only the ongoing rotation carrying you inward, deeper into the soft orange depths waiting ahead. Clouds fold slowly around you as the craft descends through Jupiter's atmosphere. Each layer carries a different shade, a change so gradual it feels more like the passage of time than a shift in color. The upper level glows with a faint red-gold light, the reflected hue of the great red spot seen from above. Beneath it, the clouds thicken into softer orange, their texture denser, their motion less visible, but more deliberate. Pressure builds steadily with each passing kilometer, compressing the gases until movement becomes slower and shapes become smoother. The air ceases to be transparent. It thickens into a luminous fog that glows with hidden fire, a glow that does not brighten so much as persist. Through the viewports, the last strands of sunlight fade into diffuse amber haze, replaced by a deepening glow that seems to rise from within the planet itself. The descent continues into the ammonia layer, a region still cold and high, but denser than any cloud on Earth. Ammonia crystals swirl lazily before dissolving under the growing heat below. The delicate structures disintegrate into vapor, giving way to hydrogen mixed with traces of helium, an ocean of gas with no visible boundary. Farther down, small flashes of light bloom in the distance, faint and filtered through hundreds of kilometers of cloud. The flashes are lightning discharges, each one powerful enough to illuminate an area larger than North America, though here they appear as trembling glows rather than strikes. Their great intensity cannot pierce the thick atmosphere. It turns what would be blinding brilliance into a gentle rhythmic pulse. The silence remains total, the sound of their release absorbed before it travels even a fraction of the distance to your craft. Pressure mounts. Temperature increases. The atmosphere outside reaches several hundred degrees, while the internal systems maintain a narrow pocket of calm. The higher ammonia clouds vanish altogether, replaced by a dense layer where compounds rich in hydrogen and sulfur dominate. The clouds here behave like liquid, their motion heavy and folded into rolling sheets. Strange currents pass beneath, slow vertical surges that carry heat upward from far deeper layers. The sensation of descent becomes less noticeable because there is no ground reference, only density changing around you. The craft does not fall as much as it drifts downward through increasingly resistant gas until buoyancy begins to match pull. You are suspended, motionless, held in place by balance between gravity's draw and pressure's upward push. Jupiter's atmosphere shapes itself around you, a soft cradle made of motion, slowed by weight. Light continues to fade, though the dark never completes itself. Deep inside the storm, particles catch stray photons from lightning and from the thermal emission of the lower atmosphere. They glow faintly in response, producing a constant warm tone of color. This luminescence is not bright, it is persistent, filling all directions with a low amber wash. The glow defines each layer as you descend, revealing slow veils of gas moving in great uniform patterns. Though the turbulence continues, scale transforms it into something calm. The deeper the descent, the slower every pattern seems to turn. This is the region where hydrogen begins to change. Pressure increases beyond anything that could exist on Earth, measured now in thousands of bars. Temperature rises to the point where molecules drift apart and simple gases behave like fluids. Hydrogen thickens, its atoms pressed so close they begin to share behavior with metals, reflecting light faintly within the haze. Each kilometer downward carries a step closer to the threshold where hydrogen becomes liquid-like, yet retains transparency. The craft instruments mark each transition slowly, but none of it translates into motion you can feel. You remain weightless, surrounded by a fluid world transitioning from gas to liquid without a surface to mark the change. At roughly 200 miles below the highest clouds, the temperature reaches several thousand degrees, and pressure has climbed to more than 100,000 times that at Earth's sea level. In this region, the dynamics of the Great Red Spot continue unseen. Deep vortices stretch downward far below the visible oval, their energy sustained by heat from the planet's interior. The storm's depth is no illusion. It extends deep enough to move through layers completely isolated from sunlight. In these conditions, where conventional weather ends, chemistry and physics merge into one continuous flow. The very material of Jupiter turns partway liquid, partway gas. The red hues that defined the storm above fade now to muted bronze, dissolving into layers where color becomes impossible to sustain. Somewhere below these visible depths lies the domain of metallic hydrogen. If one could continue downward, the thickening gases would eventually transform into a conductive ocean. Pressures there reach 2 million bars, temperatures rising between 8 and 10,000 degrees Celsius. Under those conditions, hydrogen atoms lose their electrons, forming a fluid that behaves like liquid metal. It is believed that movement within this metallic region generates the immense magnetic field that defines Jupiter's environment. You remain far above that hidden ocean, but every flicker of light in the clouds hints at its presence. A reminder that beneath the visible storm lies a planet built of fluid motion from surface to core. Another lightning illumination spreads through the haze below, silent, immense, but softened by distance. The light fills the surrounding hydrogen vapor, saturating it so completely that for a brief moment every surface reflects a soft, golden hue. Then it fades, the glow replaced by darkness, more complete than before. The interval between flashes grows longer as you move deeper. Here, storms burn slowly, confined under pressure that limits their reach. The absence of sound enhances the sense of scale. Energy this vast should roar, but instead it diffuses before it can make noise in fugitive air that is too dense, too heavy for sound to travel far. The quiet is not emptiness, it is absorption. Every violent event below loses its voice inside the atmosphere's weight, transferring destruction into light alone. Despite the immensity beneath, you feel no fall. Jupiter's atmosphere exists with gradations so smooth that descent slows naturally until speed matches buoyant flow. You hover, supported by outward pressure. The word surface has no meaning here. All is fluid, each layer giving way to another without border. You move only when convection carries you, when heat rising from deeper zones displaces the gas into which your craft has settled. The sensation is of drifting rather than sinking, of being conducted downward by slow compatibility with the planet's breathing. Movement here is subtle enough that minutes or hours could pass unnoticed. The sensor readouts display oscillations rather than linear descent. Currents loop and recirculate, returning you repeatedly to similar altitudes. Within this looping motion appears a deeper rhythm that matches the planet's rotation itself. Columns of gas rise and fall under convective momentum, slow as tides. When viewed across time, compressed into moments, those currents look stationary, yet they sustain everything above them. It is the unseen machinery of the storm, the convection network feeding rotation at the surface, powering the persistence of the red spot. Each pulse of heat from the interior rises through these channels, giving shape to what appears from orbit as pure pattern. The great red spot endures because this mechanism never stops breathing. You can almost feel it, a slow pulse pressing faintly through hull structure, not vibration, but suggestion. A planetary exhalation spreading through layers of fluid. Visibility narrows as deeper clouds envelop your path. The last vestiges of orange fade to umber, then gray. Only the soft ambient glow remains. Gravity seems lighter within these depths, not because it lessens, but because pressure and buoyancy balance perfectly. The craft sways gently in invisible currents, guided by convection rather than propulsion. Around you, motion appears in layers of transparency, wave-like oscillations that move slowly enough to follow with the eye. They are the expression of thermal rhythm, evidence of the vast dynamic system that sustains itself not through violence, but through endless adjustment. At last, the downward drift begins to slow naturally. The deeper you move, the heavier the air becomes, until its density reaches a threshold that resists further sinking. There is no single boundary between cloud and ocean, only thickening texture that finally presses back with equal force. Movements stop on their own, and in that stillness comes a realization. Motion here is rhythm rather than speed, persistence rather than force. The planet breathes at its own frequency, heat rising, gas cooling, circulation repeating across scales too vast to measure. After a long, quiet interval, the pressure of uplift surpasses descent. The craft begins to drift upward along faint convection cells, carrying heat toward the higher atmosphere. Slowly, the deep ochre around you lightens again to pale gold. The regional glow strengthens until faint brightness spreads across the port windows. The thick layers begin to loosen their grip, giving way once more to the upper haze that opened below the great red spot. Through that returning veil of orange light, your ascent continues. Darkness softens into muted radiance as you approach the edge where the storm opens to silver sunlight, and the muted rhythm of the depths remains within your hearing, as if the whole planet continues to breathe through the silence you leave behind. As the craft rises through the thinning haze, the deep reds of the storm retreat beneath you until they become a faint band of color wrapped around the planet's midsection. The atmosphere grows pale, almost translucent, and ahead, the curve of the planet bends into shadow. Near the poles, the darkness glows. Faint at first, a soft bluish-green film hovers above the limb, and then the glow strengthens into arcs and spirals of light that drift and pulse without sound. The auroras of Jupiter fill the polar sky not as quick flashes like those on Earth, but as steady, unbroken radiance that seems to breathe with the planet itself. The higher you travel, the more their light expands across the hemisphere, forming vast rings of motion locked above the poles. No noise reaches you. All movement comes through color, a vibration seen rather than heard. The illumination stems from a magnetic field so immense that it shapes space across millions of kilometers. Jupiter's magnetosphere begins near its surface and stretches outward until it forms a long tail extending over 600 million miles into the dark, far enough to reach Saturn's orbit. Within that invisible volume, charged particles move along curved magnetic lines like currents within deep water. Wherever those lines intersect the planet's upper atmosphere, they release energy, creating light in ultraviolet and visible wavelengths. On Earth, such events depend on bursts from the sun, brief and irregular. Here, the display never stops. The planet's rotation and the steady inflow of charged particles give the poles a continuous source of energy. Even in the shadowed hemisphere, the auroras never fade. They shift and oscillate, but their radiance endures without interruption. Closer observation reveals thin ribbons arranged in concentric ovals around each pole. Some arcs brighten suddenly before fading, others move inward and outward as if drawing breath. Layers overlap, one glowing faintly above another, forming a silent stack of emission bands that pulse according to hidden rhythms in the magnetosphere. These lights are hundreds of times more powerful than any terrestrial aurora. Each event releases energy measured in terawatts, enough to power all human civilization many times over, yet seen here as delicate swirls above a quiet horizon. The proportions confuse the senses. What should be violent becomes peaceful when viewed across such distance. The energy that feeds these auroras does not come solely from the solar wind. Much of it originates from the planet's moon Io, whose volcanic activity constantly expels charged particles into space. These particles join a vast torus encircling Jupiter's equator, a ring of plasma captured by magnetic fields. As Jupiter spins, the rotating magnetic lines drag portions of that ring toward the poles. The result is a permanent circuit of matter and energy linking moon and planet. With each revolution, Io contributes fresh material, and the magnetosphere channels it downward into the polar atmosphere, where it collides with gas molecules and produces light. The auroras above you now are signatures of that connection, a bridge of magnetism between worlds, a luminous dialogue carried through charged particles rather than sound. Because these processes unfold across scales beyond human sense, their rhythm feels strangely organic. The arcs expand and contract every few moments. In ultraviolet wavelengths, invisible to the eye, their brightness surges in pulses, separated by long pauses. Observations from the Hubble Space Telescope capture these variations in the high atmosphere, while the Juno spacecraft, orbiting near the poles, measures the solar wind pressing against the magnetosphere. Together, these vantage points reveal a relationship between external forces and internal response. When solar particles strike, the auroras flare. When solar wind quiets, the arcs return to their steady glow. Yet even during the calmest periods, Jupiter's internal rotation generates its own energy, ensuring the light never disappears. The cooperation between telescopic view and close measurement produced the most complete maps of these polar structures ever made, tracing each filament through ultraviolet imaging into a dynamic system of arcs and ovals, perfectly synchronized with magnetic field lines deep below the clouds. Within the viewport, flashes develop along the boundary between the main oval and the surrounding haze. They appear and fade in irregular rhythm, some lasting seconds, others stretching into minutes. Sometimes the entire oval flickers once, then steadies, as though a heartbeat had moved through the polar atmosphere. The planet's spin pulls the ovals into near-perfect circles that remain fixed relative to the magnetic axis rather than the visible surface. As Jupiter rotates in its quick 10-hour day, the auroral ovals remain in place, marking the planet's magnetic poles with halos of steady luminescence. The rest of the world turns beneath, while the auroras hold their exact position, so that from space they resemble stationary crowns placed above revolving spheres. The silence of these displays alters perception. On Earth, an aurora accompanies wind and cold air, faint rustles from forests or sea ice. Here, there is nothing but electromagnetic motion, pure energy converted into light across wavelengths beyond hearing. The magnetosphere vibrates with frequencies far below the range of sound, translating magnetic fluctuation into slow oscillation. Every pulse folds into the next, creating continuity that feels almost musical, but entirely without tone. Watching them, the rhythm aligns with your breathing. Short, bright intervals correspond to each inhale, the long fade to your exhale. Consciousness adjusts to mirror the planet's unseen frequencies, and a faint coherence arises between the mechanical hum of the craft and the steady cadence of polar light. During each pass, subtle differences emerge. On one side of the pole, where Jupiter's magnetic field leans relative to its axis, the ovals appear slightly displaced. Hubble's ultraviolet observation confirmed this unevenness, revealing that the auroral rings wander in sync with the magnetosphere's tilt. In that tilt lies evidence of lightning bolts unseen, of energy circulating through the interior metallic hydrogen layers that behave like an immense dynamo. The field changes with that inner motion, and the auroras move accordingly, a visible response to depths never otherwise observed. Light becomes frontier, the medium linking visible atmosphere to planetary core. The magnetosphere's reach stretches outward until it interacts with the solar wind, forming a boundary millions of kilometers away. Beyond that point trails the enormous magnetic tail, drawn backward by the flow of charged particles from the sun. This tail channels energy toward the distant moons, interlacing their orbits with influence. It carries fragments of Io's volcanic plume and streams them through space before drawing them back across the polar regions. The scale dwarfs imagination, a magnetized structure so large it interacts with multiple planetary systems. All of it remains invisible, revealed only through its luminous traces at the poles. Looking upon the auroras is seeing the end point of energy begun at the core, extended through magnetic lines and completed in light that circles endlessly above the night side. Occasionally, a brighter flare darts across the pole's center, an isolated burst likely triggered where the magnetosphere snaps and reconnects. The color shifts toward violet, fading into deeper blue before subsiding. These brief moments remind you that the quiet spectacle conceals intensity beyond measure. To an observer at ground level within that atmosphere, the radiation would be overwhelming, yet from orbit it forms only pattern and calm. Energy transforms under distance, aggression turning to rhythm. Gradually the glow spreads outward along the limb, merging faintly with the upper haze. The southern pole responds in turn, sending reflections of its own light emissions through the planet's night-side magnetotail. The entire planet seems wrapped in an exchange of polar signals, each pulse traveling through invisible corridors of force linking opposite ends of the sphere. The pulses alternate, north brightens, south responds, polarity shifting in magnetized intervals that span seconds rather than minutes. This alternating pattern mirrors a biological heartbeat, a planet-scale circulation that replaces pulse with charged particle flow. Each expansion and contraction of magnetic lines translates into light, dispersing through the thin atmosphere, fading only to rise again. As the display reaches its quiet phase, the primary arcs stabilize in muted blue. Their outlines blur until they merge with twilight glow along the horizon. For the first time since leaving the storm, you perceive the planet in full, the equatorial belts stretched around the middle, the ovals of light capping each end. The auroras no longer appear isolated phenomena. They complete Jupiter's system, integral to the same rotation that governs its storms and winds. The light softens into steady, lingering shimmer, like the echo after music ceases, proof of ongoing motion in silence. The observation draws inward attention. The pulses continue at intervals, now felt rather than seen, a vibration translated through the craft's faint metallic hum until it presses against the body itself. In those rhythms, muscles and breath synchronize unconsciously, as though responding to the same invisible magnetism. The realization comes without reason. The auroras are not confined to those glowing arcs above the poles. Their field extends outward, crossing void, touching everything within reach. You feel a reflection of that presence within your own quiet magnetic field, slight currents, making peace with greater ones. The boundary between observation and participation dissolves. The luminous beats of Jupiter's atmosphere echo through your stillness, through every small charge circulating in the body's own system. For a time, all fields, planetary, solar, personal, coexist in a shared pattern of gentle fluctuation. Then the arcs dim further, the light pulling back toward the horizon as Jupiter's rotation turns the poles from view. Space resumes its deep black as your orbit curves outward once again, aligning with the path that leads toward the waiting moons that circle this enormous guardian, their own faint glows taking form against the quiet beyond. Io appears ahead, a small golden sphere circling within Jupiter's vast magnetosphere. From this distance, the moon emits its own muted glow, tinted by sulfur specks lifted high above its surface. What first looks like haze resolves into tall, slender plumes, reaching hundreds of kilometers into the darkness. Each plume is a fountain of molten sulfur and gas, expelled with such force that the material arcs outward and falls back as soft rain that reshapes the terrain again and again. Io is never still. It is the most volcanically active world known, each eruption part of an endless cycle of construction and renewal. The moon's light wavers softly as molten fields cool, only to warm again when the next eruption begins. Through the window, the dance of fire below feels slow, deliberate, and self-assured. The constant renewal of Io's surface owes everything to Jupiter's size. Locked in an orbit just over 400,000 kilometers from the gas giant, Io is repeatedly stretched and compressed as it travels. Jupiter's gravity pulls unevenly across the moon, flexing its rocky interior with every orbit. That friction generates immense heat, enough to melt rock deep underground. Neighboring moons Europa and Ganymede influence the process too, pulling Io slightly out of circular motion, ensuring that the tension never stops. The planet and its moons perform a gravitational rhythm that feeds Io's internal fire. With every orbit, the moon bends under invisible pressure, and with each bend, the heat ignites new flows of magma. Volcanoes cover the entire surface, hundreds of active vents distributed across wide plains and mountain ridges. Some eruptions produce glowing lava lakes tens of kilometers wide, while others release explosive jets of gas that rise hundreds of kilometers high before collapsing under their own weight. The air there is thin, a veil of sulfur dioxide that thickens only near the venting regions. In ultraviolet light, the gases appear as faint halos illuminated by sunlight and by charged particles moving through Jupiter's magnetosphere. From orbit, eruptions create moving shadows across the plains, flashes dimming and brightening with a rhythm that seems to mimic a slow heartbeat. Yet what is violent from nearby appears peaceful from above. Molten motion locked inside a predictable pattern. The temperature differences on Io's surface mark constant struggle between heat and cooling. Every eruption blankets large areas in fresh lava, which freezes almost immediately because of the moon's thin atmosphere. The sulfur and silicate materials change color as they cool, first orange, then yellow, then a chalk-white crust. Over time, the ground becomes streaked with bands of differing mineral shades, creating wide mosaics tracing each eruption cycle. To the eye, these strata read as timeline layers, each one recording another sweep of volcanic rhythm through frozen color. Recent flybys by the Juno spacecraft have revealed new detail beneath that shimmering exterior. Instruments studying electromagnetic fields and gravity variations have transformed the old view of Io's interior. Earlier, scientists imagined a global ocean of magma flowing beneath its crust, an unbroken sea of molten rock feeding each volcano. The new data contradict that image. Juno's findings indicate that instead of a single vast reservoir, Io's interior consists of a network of magma channels, narrow, connected conduits running through solid rock. The magma moves along those passageways, sometimes merging into pockets near the surface, then draining into deeper reservoirs after an eruption subsides. The activity we see above results from pressure changes within that branching system. It is a circulation of rock instead of water, continuous and steady over unknown spans of time. Each time Io completes its orbit, this internal motion interacts with Jupiter's magnetic field. The Moon cuts across magnetic lines moving at tremendous velocity, generating electrical currents that traverse its body. Those currents help heat the subsurface further, reinforcing the cycle. The interaction goes both ways. Io's volcanic exhaust feeds directly into Jupiter's magnetosphere. Sulfur compounds and sodium vapor escape from each eruption and drift into space, where sunlight ionizes them. The resulting charged particles are swept up along magnetic field lines and drawn toward Jupiter's poles. They become visible again as part of the planet's auroras. Thus, the fire of Io sustains light across worlds. Eruption here creates radiance there. The auroral glow at Jupiter's poles is, in part, the echo of these volcanic breaths venting into space. To the human eye, Io's day seems short and monotonous. Yet under constant volcanic renewal, no landscape endures for long. Plains formed today may vanish in a decade. Craters fill and smooth themselves. Ridges breach and rebuild elsewhere. The surface ages in reverse. It remains geologically young because destruction is a form of maintenance. The Moon seldom cools completely. Beneath its fragile crust, warming and flexing continue, guided by the same gravitational rhythm that shapes its orbit. Destruction feeds abundance. Where lava covers an old flow, the new surface glows under sunlight with added brightness, evidence that heat has replaced cold. The process never ends, and in that constancy lies what appears as calm from space. Orbiting closer, individual features resolve. Loki Patera, a vast volcanic basin the size of a small continent, shimmers with alternating patterns of dark and pale glow. One segment cools as another reheats, creating a moving chain of light around the rim. Nearby, Prometheus volcano forces columns of gas skyward like quiet fountains. They reach nearly 300 kilometers before falling back in arcs that drift across the surface as yellow frost. Each active site maintains its rhythm, its own timing defined by inner cycles of heat and stress. Together, these hundreds of sites form a synchrony that governs the Moon's outward appearance. The entire body seems to pulse through eruptions rather than rotate. Because Io travels through Jupiter's ferocious radiation belts, It exists in an environment of extremes. Charged particles from the magnetosphere bombard its surface constantly, affecting its thin atmosphere and altering minerals on contact. Yet the moon endures, cycling through renewal faster than destruction. High-energy electrons strike the volcanic plumes, producing soft ultraviolet luminescence visible as faint auroral halos surrounding the moon. Even away from Jupiter's poles, light continues, reflected, refracted, recreated. Seen from this distance, Io's continuous eruptions and lava flows resemble a quiet conversation between gravity and heat. The tidal forces that feed its energy act like a pulse pressing through unseen layers, guiding the molten rock upward whenever pressure balances align. Each eruption is response rather than accident, every vent a release maintaining equilibrium between interior strain and surface stability. Beneath the spectacle of fire lies predictable motion, a form of routine embedded in chaos. It is ceaseless, but never frantic. The repetition becomes comforting, a mechanical rhythm shaped by immense forces and long duration. As your orbit carries you along its equatorial line, shadows cast by the plumes grow elongated over the curved horizon. The planet's reflected light shines gold against sulfur plains, turning their harsh textures into gentle gradients. The nearer you look, the more detail vanishes. The surface heat blurs perspective, erasing edges until the world below becomes a single glowing field. Its violence softens into steady illumination. The mind begins to perceive not eruption, but flow, one continuous act of surface renewal stretching throughout time. The connection between Io and Jupiter functions like balance itself, energy exchanged without waste. Volcanic heat leaves the moon through eruptions. That energy reappears in Jupiter's magnetosphere as light. Each process supports the next, destruction feeding creation across space. It is a closed loop, neither origin nor end, evidence of order within motion. Watching the golden surface flicker beneath dense shadow, it becomes clear that unrest can serve rest. That stability comes not from stillness, but from patterns that never stop repeating. Your craft begins to slip past the moon's trailing side. Behind you, the last visible eruption arcs into the black, dispersing in thin sulfur dust. Io's glow diminishes, leaving only faint haze spread across the magnetosphere. The soft yellow, seen at first, now fades to bronze, then disappears entirely as distance grows. Heat gives way to shadow. Ahead waits a different kind of stillness, a world of ice instead of flame. Europa rises from the darkness, its surface gleaming with soft, reflected light. A frozen ocean waiting beneath silence. Europa appears first as a pale blue-white orb, moving just beyond the glow of Jupiter's shadow. Its light is not its own, but reflected sunlight, muted through countless layers of frozen water. The surface looks smooth from afar, but as your orbit narrows, cracks begin to appear, thin, dark streaks crossing the plains in long, chaotic lines. They cover nearly the entire moon, each fracture slightly shifted from the next. Between them lie wide, faintly colored bands where ancient ice once broke and froze again. Beneath that frozen crust, hidden beyond sight and sound, moves an ocean deeper than any found on Earth. It exists in total darkness, warmed not by sunlight, but by the steady pull and release of Jupiter's gravity. It is here, in this quiet interior sea, that Europa keeps its calm. From above, the surface appears severe. Patches of blue and gray alternate with faint yellow tones caused by salts mixed into the ice. Some cracks run hundreds of kilometers, forming ridges where old fractures have refrozen over time. Others are fresh, slightly raised, their edges uneven where new ice has pushed upward. The patterns remind observers that Europa's surface is young, constantly shifting and healing. Beneath the visible fissures lies an ice shell, several kilometers thick, that floats atop a global body of liquid water. Heat from the moon's interior prevents it from freezing solid. That internal warmth originates from the same tidal flexing that fuels Io's volcanoes, but on Europa, it manifests as gentle persistence rather than eruption. With each orbit, Jupiter's gravitational pull stretches and compresses Europa's body. This invisible rhythm produces frictional heat in the layers below the frozen surface, enough to keep the buried ocean from turning to ice. Juno's reconnaissance of the Jovian system has shown brief glimpses of Europa's complexity. Close flybys have captured fine detail across its polar regions, where surface fractures scatter light differently from equatorial plains. Some of those areas bear signs of unusual chemistry, including traces of salts and possible organic molecules near the fissures. These findings hint that material from the subsurface ocean may sometimes reach the upper crust through geyser-like upwelling. If so, the stains and streaks across Europa's face record the quiet exchange between interior water and outer void. The interaction between them suggests that the ocean beneath remains active, potentially mixing materials between layers in slow global circulation. Viewed over time, Europa's surface behaves like a slow-breathing organism. The thick ice flexes under tidal stress, rising slightly when Jupiter's gravity pulls strongest, and relaxing again as the moon moves farther away. The movement happens too gradually for the eye to see, yet the data describing this expansion and contraction reveal variations measured in meters. Each tidal cycle acts like an exhale and inhale stretched across days. The slow bending of the crust prevents the pressure from building too much in any one place. Occasionally, cracks widen, releasing tension, allowing plumes of vapor to escape into space before refreezing along the edges of the fractures. From orbit, those emissions are faint and temporary, but they confirm that the ice shell remains porous, flexible, and alive in motion. Below this restless surface lies an ocean, possibly 100 kilometers deep. It remains locked beneath tens of kilometers of ice, sealed away but constantly stirred by the same forces that sustain it. Within that darkness, salts dissolved from a rocky sea floor change the conductivity of the water, a difference detected by variations in magnetic readings. Those subtle signals hint at a liquid environment in motion, rotating slightly out of sync with the solid crust. On Earth, such slow rotation in an ocean would shape global currents. Here, it creates a hidden geography defined by heat flow, mineral transport, and the quiet collision of water masses carried by gravity alone. The thought of that unseen sea invites pause. The idea that beneath such a harsh landscape lies a steady body of water turns the usual sense of extremes inside out. Life on Earth depends on sunlight and air. Yet Europa hides its potential for habitability beneath freezing silence, proving that energy and life may persist within the boundaries of shadow. The tidal heating creates gradients in temperature and chemistry that could sustain chemistry across vast spans of time. Each fracture visible from above might serve as a conduit between an ocean floor warmed by tidal friction and the cold vacuum beyond. The surface itself carries evidence of this communication. Where ice ruptures, deposits of darker material line the cracks. These markings have drawn attention since the earliest spacecraft images, for they suggest mixing between layers. On Europa, what is hidden frequently returns, flowing upward only to freeze again into pattern. Some streaks contain salts resembling those found in Earth's deep-sea vents. Others include compounds that darken when exposed to charged particles from Jupiter's magnetic field. Together they form a record of both internal and external influences, the meeting point of two vastly different worlds, the irradiated void above and the quiet ocean below. The passage across Europa reveals none of this noise. From the vantage of space, the Moon moves with quiet precision through the magnetosphere, its orbit synchronized with Jupiter's rotation. Beneath that calm movement, internal tides push against the ice shell. Occasionally, stress fractures amplify, producing new lines across the surface. Computers aboard the observing craft register small spikes in magnetic and thermal readings, translating physical strain into numerical rhythm. Those changes correspond to flexing cycles within the crust, a mechanical repetition so steady it begins to feel meditative. Each groan of ice corresponds to distant motion far below, a reminder that what appears static is continuously evolving. If one could listen closely enough, Europa's interior might sound like slow movement through the sea, long creaks, subtle lowering tones as vast masses of ice rub past each other. The motion is quiet, yet ongoing, like breathing extended beyond conventional measure. For all the age of the Jovian system, Europa's surface remains almost new when compared with its neighbors, erased and rewritten over millions of years. Unlike cratered Callisto or fiery Io, this moon cultivates serenity through constant, subdued change. Its state of renewal is slow enough to preserve beauty, yet quick enough to hide the scars of impact. In this balance, Europa becomes both still and active, both frozen and fluid. Passing across the northern hemisphere reveals wide plains reflecting light in faint blue hues, each one interrupted by fields of darker material. The contrast offers evidence of variable thickness in the ice, thin near the equator, thick toward the poles. Where the crust thins, the ocean may lie only a few kilometers beneath. There, faint warmth rising through the ice softens surface features. Portions of those plains show patterns reminiscent of scratched glass, where parallel grooves intersect in random order. These grooves reveal not violence, but motion recorded at geological tempo. Everything here speaks of slow persistence. Juno's imaging captures subtle brightness variations in these regions, clarifying that salts and perhaps frozen brine cover large portions of the crust. That observation supports earlier findings from other missions, confirming that Europa's subsurface water is likely salty. Salt water conducts electricity and interacts with Jupiter's magnetic environment. Some models suggest that the magnetic field occasionally induces electrical currents within the ocean, producing weak chemical reactions near the crust's base. If accurate, that means even in absence of sunlight, Europa's waters experience gentle, sustaining energy inputs derived from motion rather than radiation. The longer you remain in orbit, the more Europa's silence replaces the memory of storms and fire. After the turbulent brilliance of Jupiter's clouds and Io's eruptions, this world's stillness feels profound. Here, movement happens invisibly beneath layers that conceal everything worth knowing. The ocean continues to shift, unaware of observation, unconcerned with interpretation. It does not rage, it does not rest, it simply persists, circulating through confines of ice that breathe and close with each orbit. Peace resides not in absence of energy, but in its measured release through slow exchange. In this environment, reflection comes easily. The surface below mirrors faint blue light from the sun, filtered through Jupiter's reflected glow. And in that sheen lies suggestion of cover and protection. The ice safeguards the ocean from radiation, from sudden change, from contact. It encloses the possible within insulation, ensuring that motion remains gentle. The quiet beneath becomes an image of self-contained equilibrium, a reminder that stillness can coexist with transformation. Europa is tranquility shaped by endurance. Beneath its scarred surface, a hidden ocean continues to move under steady gravity, warmed by strain instead of flame. In that isolation lies harmony, a world sustained by pressure, repetition, and silence. As the orbit carries you away, the blue of its frozen crust recedes, dimming against the shadow line of space. Ahead, a faint silver glow begins to rise from the horizon, broader and darker in hue. The next moon waits there, immense and steady, under its own magnetic shield. Ganymede turns on its axis, its darker light swelling gently to meet your path. Ganymede rises from Europa's fading light like a shadowed mirror, larger, darker, wrapped in subdued silver. It turns slowly within Jupiter's magnetic field, its calm orbit concealing a complexity unlike any other moon in the solar system. Beneath its quiet appearance lies activity both mechanical and magnetic. Ganymede is the only moon known to possess its own magnetosphere, a bubble of influence carved from the vast magnetic currents pouring outward from its parent planet. This field interacts constantly with Jupiter's, sometimes merging, sometimes resisting, forming shifting borderlands of force, invisible to the eye, but traceable through the subtle dance of light that plays at its poles. To watch Ganymede is to observe two magnetic worlds bound together, their fields locked in partnership, each shaping the other through unseen resonance. The moon's surface, illuminated by faint sun and reflected glow from Jupiter, lies divided into two distinct terrains. Some areas are light, covered in grooved ice that reflects weak light in blue-gray tones. Others are darker, older, heavily cratered, filled with the memory of early impacts. These contrasts hint at a layered interior, rock and ice intertwined in alternating strata, stretching hundreds of kilometers deep. Near its center lies a liquid metallic core, primarily iron and nickel, where motion generates Ganymede's internal magnetic field. That core functions as a dynamosphere, similar in principle to those of planets, but operating on a smaller, slower scale. Heat from formation and from gradual radioactive decay keeps the interior in motion. The slow churn of conductive fluid induces electrical currents, which produce magnetic lines radiating outward through the mantle, pressing gently against Jupiter's overwhelming field. Each orbit around the giant produces an electromagnetic conversation between these two colossal systems. Jupiter's powerful magnetosphere spins faster than any of its moons, dragging streams of charged particles around like invisible tides. When those streams cross Ganymede's own field, the overlapping lines of force distort in smooth cyclical patterns. The moon's magnetosphere compresses on the side facing Jupiter and extends on the side facing away, forming a teardrop shape just like Earth's magnetic field under the pressure of solar wind. Yet here, the controlling influence is not plasma from the sun, but a planetary current millions of times stronger than any wind. This subtle exchange generates auroras circling Ganymede's poles, dim bands of blue and ultraviolet light, recorded by telescopes in orbit around Earth and by instruments on Juno itself. They pulse softly, displaced slightly from the poles and drifting with each turn of the moon, a constant motion that reflects underlying magnetic oscillation. Juno's magnetometers and ultraviolet sensors confirm that those auroral shifts occur because Ganymede's internal field tilts relative to Jupiter's magnetic axis. The tilt pulls the auroras from their expected positions, causing them to sway in rhythm as the moon revolves. Hubble's measurements captured this displacement as pairs of glowing arcs moving back and forth, their wandering pattern revealing the magnetic dialogue between the two worlds. The data show that every brightening, every subtle flicker of the aurora corresponds to moments when the fields reinforce or oppose one another. When aligned, brightness increases. When opposite, the light dims into faint haze. Through this gentle oscillation, the interaction between moon and planet becomes visible, a vibration of magnetism rendered in color. Beneath the icy surface, several layers of hidden oceans may contribute to these electromagnetic conditions. Between thick shells of ice lie liquid water, mixed with salts, stacked like quiet strata over the solid mantle. Each conductive layer interacts with magnetic lines passing through, altering their orientation slightly and producing measurable variations in field strength. Those shifts helped confirm the existence of internal oceans, and they demonstrated that even under frozen silence, Ganymede remains a world in motion. Instead of turbulence or eruption, the activity manifests as flow and alignment, electrical in essence rather than volcanic. The core hums at frequencies too low to hear, and the surrounding layers conduct that hum outward, transforming rotation into magnetism. If Jupiter's magnetosphere could be heard, it would drone at nearly constant tone. Ganymede's contribution would pulse softly within it, a faint undertone phasing in and out of harmony. Together, they create a resonance that moves through space, much like sound through air, though here it travels by magnetic fluctuation. This duet between planet and moon defines the environment encompassing all of Jupiter's satellites. At times, Ganymede's smaller field forms miniature magnetic storms within the greater field, creating isolated regions where charged particles spiral and release faint light. At other times, the two systems align perfectly, their boundaries dissolving until the moon becomes part of the planetary field, indistinguishable except for the slight shimmer of its auroras. The sensation evokes unity rather than conflict, motion that sustains stability through perpetual interaction. The magnetic relationship tells a longer story of formation. Billions of years ago, when Ganymede was still warm and malleable, separation between metallic core and icy mantle began. Gradual differentiation allowed the generation of magnetism to persist long after smaller bodies froze solid. Unlike most moons, it retained enough internal energy to maintain circulation within its metal-rich core. That persistence allowed a field to form, self-contained, yet influenced by the surrounding giant. The result is the only satellite ever known to host a stable, global magnetosphere, a miniature planetary identity preserved within Jupiter's dominion. Observation of its auroras and field lines provides insight into how planetary magnetism arises, not through size alone, but through motion sustained over deep time. As your viewpoint drifts across Ganymede's night side, zones of faint blue shimmer mark the poles. They appear constant, but closer observation reveals rhythm within their brightness, gentle surges repeating with slow precision. Juno's data show that radiation belts of electrons and ions stream toward those luminous regions following curved magnetic conduits. Those particles collide with the sparse traces of atmosphere above the moon's surface, producing continuous faint glow. The atmosphere, composed mainly of oxygen molecules released from ice by sunlight, is far too thin to sustain weather, yet thick enough to interact electrically. Through that reaction, invisible magnetism gains visible form. The flickering aurora acts as gauge and heartbeat, showing that the moon's internal dynamo continues to turn even after billions of years. The facing hemisphere glints softly under sunlight reflected from Jupiter's clouds. Wide grooves cross the icy plains in parallel curves, frozen remnants of ancient tectonic movement. These patterns echo the internal layering, surface mirroring depth, magnetism mirroring orbit. Shallow craters fill with frost that glows faint silver at low angles, while deep rifts collect shadow and fade into darkness. Everywhere, order replaces chaos. The grooves follow a consistent orientation aligned roughly with the equator, evidence of stretching that occurred as the moon expanded and cooled. The metallic core beneath this quiet landscape still spins, unnoticed yet essential, converting slow rotation into persistence. The interplay between Ganymede and Jupiter's fields produces comfort rather than conflict. Forces immense beyond comprehension have reached a compromise. Each field distorts but neither yields. The shape of Ganymede's magnetosphere changes constantly, yet always returns to equilibrium. The auroral motions never stop but never accelerate. This magnetic balance functions like harmonic suspension, two tones meeting at perfect interval, their interference creating a pattern both steady and fluid. Such stability emerges not from stillness, but from cooperation, each influence adjusting to accommodate the other. In listening to these alternating pulses through instruments and data, scientists describe frequency rather than force, motion that stabilizes rather than disrupts. As the orbit brings the larger world of Jupiter into full view again, Ganymede's magnetosphere becomes faint outline within the planet's broader glow. Its independent field still extends tens of thousands of kilometers, but within Jupiter's dominion, it looks delicate, precise, contained. The satellite drifts through plasma streams without losing cohesion, sheltered by its own creation. For fleeting moments, Jupiter's and Ganymede's auroras align visually, faint arcs along two distant poles pulsing together before separating again. Their synchronization lasts mere seconds but continues endlessly, cycle after cycle. In that steady alternation lies quiet unity, the comfort of motion, made predictable through infinite repetition. Gradually, the scene adopts stillness. The auroras ease into pale halos, no brighter than moonlight on frozen water. The magnetospheres settle into balance, and the electrical noise surrounding the craft diminishes into constant low hum. What remains is an impression of resonance rather than spectacle, of energy reinterpreted as patience. From this vantage, Ganymede becomes not a subsidiary moon, but a magnetic counterpart, a companion sustaining order amid the giant's overwhelming force. Its core continues to whirl unseen, maintaining its internal current, while Jupiter's own rotation supports it from without. Two immense systems, both magnetic, both rotating, keep one another steady through invisible ties. Beyond Ganymede's orbit, the background stars regain clarity as you drift toward the outer edge of Jupiter's reach. The silver decreases to gray. The glow of the auroras weakens until it dissolves entirely. In the distance, a dim, cratered moon waits, older and quieter than all the others. Callisto hangs on the frontier of the magnetosphere, untouched by the tidal motions that stir its siblings. The movement toward it feels slowed by distance, as if passing from vibration into rest. The magnetic duet fades, leaving behind only equilibrium, the soundless resonance of two worlds returning to calm as the journey continues toward that final, waiting silence. In the dim outer reaches of Jupiter's domain, Callisto drifts in a path both wide and unchanging. Its orbit lies far beyond the influence of the planet's stronger tides, beyond the magnetic noise that shrouds the inner moons. From this distance, Jupiter's storms appear as faint glowing tapestries stretched against blackness. The planet's immense gravity still commands, but only in silence. Here, motion slows to serenity. Callisto's path never varies, its rhythm measured not in quick rotations, but in long, even revolutions. The moon turns once for every orbit, locked in balance, always presenting the same face toward its giant companion, yet never pulled close enough to feel its disturbance. It is a world left untouched by renewal or eruption, a record of everything that once occurred and has since gone still. Callisto is the oldest surface in the Jovian system, perhaps in the entire solar family. The crust shows the memory of 4 billion years of impacts, none erased by tectonics, none softened by volcanism. The moon's interior cooled early, losing the heat that reshapes other worlds. With no convection in its mantle and no molten heart to drive renewal, every crater that struck its face remains. The result is a mosaic of circular scars layered atop one another, beginning to end. Some overlap, others fade under newer impacts that are themselves ancient. From orbit, the view resembles stonework laid by the universe itself, each crater a tile in an incomprehensible duration. Beneath that surface of rock and ancient ice, there may still exist a thin ocean, trapped under hundreds of kilometers of frozen crust, yet shielded from contact with radiation by distance and silence. The color of the landscape is subdued, tones of gray and faint brown flecked with subtle whites, where frost collects inside older basins. No bright reflections mark its plains, no glowing fumaroles hint at heat. The moon absorbs more than it gives back, turning sunlight into dull warmth that fades almost immediately. The ground is a blend of rock and frozen water, rugged but unhurried in contour, shaped only by time and impact. To look upon it is to see the end point of planetary storylines, the quiet after fire, the equilibrium after endless shaping. Where Io burns and Europa hides an ocean, Callisto endures by remaining unchanged. In that endurance lies clarity, an image of still being rather than becoming. The silence of this distant companion is complete. Instruments detect little movement within its interior. Gravity readings show no variation suggesting active tides. Seismic potential is absent. Radiation levels drop dramatically here as Jupiter's protective field weakens toward its edges. The magnetosphere releases its grip, and space returns to clean vacancy. For the first time since entering the Jovian realm, instruments register near silence across all frequencies. In that quiet, the surface seems to breathe through stillness alone. Shadows move only because the sun itself moves. Day stretches twice as long as Earth's, but each hour feels almost endless. Passing across its terminator, the slow transition between sunlight and night, the faint glow of distant Jupiter paints the horizon in dim silver. The line between light and darkness moves so slowly it could be mistaken for stillness. The craters along that edge cast long shadows that never tremble because wind cannot reach them. There is no atmosphere thick enough to scatter light or to carry sound. Even micrometeor strikes make no echo, their disturbances vanishing into cold without a trace. Only temperature varies, rising just high enough to let frost sublime during daylight hours, then refreezing again each night. That simple process repeats, exact and unchanged, a cycle that has endured since before records began. The Great Impact Basin, Valhalla, sprawls across one hemisphere like a silent echo of forgotten violence. Its inner rings form concentric ridges that stretch for nearly 4,000 kilometers across the crust. Yet even this colossal scar formed by ancient collision looks subdued now. The edges have softened over eons, transformed from jagged rim to gentle rise. Within its borders lie smaller craters layered over its ghostly outline, proof that more time has passed since its formation than separates human history from its own beginning. There are no volcanoes to blur it, no floods to erase it, only the endless fall of micrometeor dust, refining its contours with patient precision. Every mark remains as record, every shadow an archive. Callisto's rotation carries you slowly above that ancient landscape. The sunlight here arrives weakened by distance, only a fraction of what reaches Earth. Yet it gives enough for the horizon to outline itself. The pale gleam on the ice crystals flickers once with each orbit of Jupiter's reflected light, then continues without variation. Within this faint illumination, details appear delicate despite their scale. Fractures cross crater floors in fine threads. Frost accumulates in hollows where ancient impacts left depressions deep enough to collect it. The moon offers no heights beyond modest ridges and no valleys deeper than those carved by impact. All forms remain disciplined by gravity's quiet hold. This region bears none of the turbulence seen before. The belts and storms of Jupiter are distant memories, reduced to soft, motionless glow. Callisto experiences the giant planet not through force, but through reflection. From its surface, Jupiter would hang low in the sky, 20 times wider than Earth's moon, but silent. The reflection of cloud bands would shift across its disk, while auroral flares at the poles trace faint ribbons in the planetary shade. That slow movement in the heavens would mark time, the only motion visible to an observer on Callisto's still ground. The moon itself contributes no light, but returns a gentle brown brightness, completing the quiet exchange. As you circle higher, the pattern of craters becomes almost hypnotic. Distances lose meaning. One crater merges into another until the whole surface blurs into a texture more than a geography. Every feature reads as trace of something that has already ended, yet the total impression is not decay, but endurance. While other worlds change themselves through eruption, colliding forces, or internal flow, Callisto maintains balance by declining to move. It is the outcome of energy spent, matter settled, temperature evened with emptiness. In its stillness, there is no absence of life, but rather the persistence of form beyond need for renewal. The moon's orbit sits just outside Jupiter's intense radiation belt. This isolation makes it not only older in form, but quieter in environment. It remains unharmed by the energetic storms that batter its siblings. Instruments note that radiation levels here fall so low that sensitive circuitry could remain exposed for years. The emptiness itself becomes protection. No charged particles arc across its sky, and no magnetic storms alter its surface. The absence of disturbance defines its peace. In that serenity, the contrast to what has come before sharpens. After fire, lightning, magnetism, and ocean, this still round world becomes the final measure of time, slowed to permanence. Drifting along its night side reveals a view unlike any before. The darkness feels absolute until Jupiter rises over the horizon, a dim, enormous sphere suspended in the distance. Light from its upper atmosphere spills faintly across space, enough to outline the cratered ground in deep relief. The planet appears reduced, softened by distance into a calm, glowing marble. From this perspective, even Jupiter's colossal storms shrink into gentle swirls of pale beige and soft gray. The great red spot, once immense and commanding, blends quietly into the planet's curvature. Scale loses authority. Everything that once appeared immeasurable now fits into a single, tranquil shape. In that view, Callisto becomes a mirror, not of light, but of stillness, reflecting stillness. It holds the image of everything past, from Io's ferocity to Europa's calm, from Ganymede's magnetic pulse to Jupiter's breath-like storms. Each layer of experience across the journey finds its reflection here where motion ends, recorded in the moon's patient quiet. The surface bears witness to history measured not by season, but by geological age, and yet it feels near, as if time itself bends closer in places undisturbed. The ego and the now coexist in this one view of permanent ground. Because distance softens all things, even perception begins to still here. The sensory rush of earlier scenes withdraws. The hum of instruments quiets until only the faint background tone of deep space remains. In that thinning sound, rhythm slows. Breathing matches the motion of the orbit, long and even. The light from Callisto's surface shifts with small variations in angle, but its pattern repeats without interruption. Repetition erases measure, and measure fades into quiet. The moon turns beneath like a pendulum that has found its midpoint and stopped there, self-contained. Callisto's quiet invites comparison with one's own. After long movement through storm and magnetism, a new kind of equilibrium arrives. The static ground below and the slow gravity holding the craft create weightless balance, one complementing the other. The body relaxes under consistent silence. Thought grows lighter until it, too, orbits without urgency. The mind finds rest not through absence, but through gentleness repeated until it feels like familiarity. In the moon's stillness, reflection arises unasked, that perhaps the universe sustains both chaos and composure equally, demanding neither resistance nor control, only awareness. Far from the center of power, the edge holds its calm. Beyond this orbit lies darkness, free of magnetic interference, pressure, and storm. Callisto remains poised inside that threshold, a guardian of outer quiet. Its scarred crust preserves the story of bombardment long past, yet it wears the marks without grief. Observed from above, it appears timeless, a single motion stretched over eons. Within its distance, Jupiter's ceaseless motion dissolves into gentle color shafts along the horizon. The planet turns, Callisto revolves. The configuration endures unaltered. As your craft completes its final arc and begins to slow, the view expands. Behind you glimmers the faint thread of the magnetosphere, and ahead stretches open dark. The belts, the auroras, the volcanic glow, all now belong to the distance. Only Callisto remains below, quiet under frost and pitted stone. Its surface does not shine but steadies, a plain tone in the vastness. The approach to stillness is complete. The orbit holds, then lengthens into calm. Jupiter fades to marble in the distance, soft light suspended in infinite shadow. The craft coasts without sound, wrapped in a silence that matches the moon it leaves behind, the slow rhythm ceasing as the journey reaches its peaceful rest. From this distance, Jupiter fills the horizon in full. The storm belts, the faint glow of auroras around the poles, and the dim traces of its moons all merge into one vast pattern. The distinctions between features fade. They no longer operate as separate structures, but as parts of a single continuous movement. The planet contracts and expands almost imperceptibly, the alternating belts of light and shadow rolling in rhythm across its surface. The winds, the magnetism, the motion of its moons all seem drawn into a quiet pattern that repeats endlessly. What begins as observation becomes awareness of rhythm, the sense that everything happening within and around Jupiter is one act, a system breathing through its immense body. The measurements Juno has gathered reveal this pulse more precisely than ever. Beneath the clouds, Jupiter is not uniform. Its interior layers blur together, driven by rapid rotation that carries currents of gas into long bands curling around the equator. Each layer influences the next, moving faster or slower depending on depth. The transition between them is not sudden, but smooth, forming an internal ladder of rotation that transmits energy outward like mechanical gears without solid parts. Hydrogen and helium, compressed under extraordinary pressure, behave as liquid metals near the core. Those conductive fluids spin with the planet, generating its magnetic field. The variations in that field recorded by the spacecraft echo the patterns seen at the surface, confirming that the storms above are not isolated weather, but surface reflections of deeper motion. Each component connects to another through rotation. The belts and zones that band the atmosphere reflect angular momentum passed upward from the dense layers below. The atmosphere moves as a vast conveyor of energy. Sunlight adds motion at the top, but the real driver lies inside. Heat stored from Jupiter's formation still leaks outward, escaping slowly through the thick envelope of hydrogen. That rising warmth sustains convection, feeding turbulence that forms the parallel stripes we see. The rotation converts stored heat into motion, and motion becomes weather. The cycle repeats continuously, with no true beginning or end. There is no separation between structure and movement, between energy and expression. Because the entire planet rotates in under 10 hours, centrifugal force reshapes it into an oblate sphere, wider at the equator, slightly flattened at the poles. This shape controls how gravity distributes across the interior, regulating circulation at every depth. Circular motion defines the architecture of Jupiter, from the curve of its magnetic lines to the path of the smallest dust swirling through its orbit. Each turn, each spinning layer, adds to the continuous flow. The effect, seen across the system of moons and particles surrounding it, resembles an organism with pulse and respiration, rather than a static body of rock and gas. The data from Juno describe not still gas but moving mass, currents of material extending tens of thousands of kilometers deep. The magnetic field fluctuates as those currents shift, creating loops and eddies similar in shape to the storms visible above. When modeled mathematically, the variations fall into repeating intervals, like the rhythm of music too low for hearing. Each pulse corresponds to a transfer of energy from inside the planet to its outer environment. Trapped heat rises, cool gas sinks, and magnetic fluctuations translate that motion into electromagnetic waves running through space. To instruments aboard the spacecraft, those variations appear as changes in field strength over time. To the observer here, they appear as subtle changes in the color and brightness of the atmosphere below, a planetary rhythm rendered as alternating light. The closer one looks, the less the separation between physics and feeling seems clear. Tracking how the belts move confirms predictable equations of fluid motion, yet the resulting image carries quiet symmetry that evokes life rather than mechanism. The storms near the poles rotate in organized clusters, circling a central vortex like petals arranged around a core. Each cyclone maintains equal spacing, as though locked into invisible geometry. Data describe measured pressure and velocity, but seen as a whole, the configuration pulses like a living heart. The appearance matches the measurements, rotating systems exchanging momentum through repeating loops that preserve energy without decay. The mind seeks pattern and finds one, but scale shifts its meaning. Jupiter's pulse dwarfs the human measure of time. What seems steady within minutes expands to decades when viewed through its cycles. The great red spot, turning day after day, completes rotation after rotation, but never arrives anywhere, a repetition that spans centuries. Each orbit of a moon, each turn of belts and storms, contributes to the sense of a system self-contained and eternal. The numbers from instruments, gravity gradients, field variances, trace chemical signatures, translate into music for understanding, but the experience of the whole extends beyond calculation. Definition dissolves into awareness that motion itself can become stillness when seen across sufficient scale. The hydrogen layers beneath the clouds act like slow-moving machinery, transmitting torque through density rather than contact. Convection cells within them transform rotational energy into upward motion. These cells behave like gears made of fluid, engaging by flow instead of teeth. Heat rising through these cells sets the upper atmosphere in motion. The winds seen above are the surface of that hidden mechanism. Juno's gravitational readings confirm differences in mass where these currents twist together. Each shift in density alters the surrounding magnetic field. When the field moves, it interacts with charged particles, shaping auroras at the poles. Thus, the planet's interior heartbeat traces upward through its clouds and into space as light. The recognition of pattern becomes quiet realization. Observation no longer feels external. Watching the atmosphere turn, the belts expand and contract, the faint glimmer of auroras blink on and off. It is impossible not to feel the presence of order beneath them all. The notion of control drops away. Gravity alone maintains rhythm across magnitudes that cannot be experienced directly. The attempt to define gives way to release, an understanding that knowledge and wonder connect through surrender rather than precision. Within that surrender, perception slows until motion smooths into peace. The simultaneous spin of storms, orbit of moons, circulation of magnetic flux, and beating of hydrogen tides merge into one pulse large enough to replace thought with rhythm. Each new discovery confirms how deeply unified the system stands. Definition of atmosphere, interior, ring, and moon collapses into continuity. Models show that Jupiter continuously mixes its materials, drawing heavy elements upward, sending lighter components downward, preventing sharp boundaries from forming. Its interior does not divide cleanly between core and gas. It blends gradually, a transition zone of layered fluids extending outward through much of its radius. Through this blending, angular momentum and heat spread evenly, ensuring the rotation remains stable. The process resembles metabolism, not because of organic movement, but because each transfer sustains the next. Energy produced by compression becomes motion. Motion becomes balance. Balance produces longevity. To witness this from orbit is to encounter stability through motion. The planet's heartbeats manifest not through sound, but through the persistence of pattern. Every 10 hours, the belts complete a rotation. Every revolution of the moons adds a counter-rhythm. Together they compose a system of circling durations, none conflicting, all blending, a symphony drawn by gravity alone. The auroras, the storms, the slow drift of clouds, even the magnetic pulses detected by instruments aboard every passing spacecraft echo within one frequency range. The noise dissolves into a single tone, steady as background radiation, neither high nor low, simply constant. The awareness settles. The massive planet below no longer appears violent or vast. It feels cohesive, continuous, and slow. Each swirl of cloud joins the next. Each fluctuation in the magnetic field merges into linear calm. Dominant motion replaces silence, yet delivers the same absence of interruption. Breathing aligns with that vast tempo, slower, steadier. The body internalizes what it observes until the separation between orbit and observer thins. Observation becomes participation. The planet's energy, still rising from its compressed heart, radiates outward, sustaining not noise or brightness, but equilibrium. No heartbeat needs to be heard to be known. The presence itself confirms it. Gradually, light fades as your orbit approaches the planet's night side. Sunlight withdraws, leaving only the diffuse glow of reflected auroras near the pole. They pulse once, then dim to soft traces, barely visible through the haze. The belts disappear into shadow, the immense circumference of the planet blending seamlessly into surrounding space. Yet the sense of motion remains, a low awareness vibrating through unseen depth. The final view is not of form, but of persistence. Jupiter turns below with patient momentum, storms continuing unseen beneath the darkness, their circulation carrying the planet's breath forward. The craft drifts in silence, following the same curve, until the faint outline of the planet merges with night, and the slow spin subsides into endless calm. The realization settles slowly. The storm never ends, yet neither does the stillness within it. Jupiter's endless motion continues far below, balanced by quiet so steady it erases time. The belts revolve, the auroras fade and return, and every current finds rest inside its repetition. Endurance becomes its own form of peace, patient and self-sustaining. You sense that nothing here struggles to move. Movement is simply being. As your orbit drifts into shadow, calm remains. The planet keeps turning through ages without pause, so you no longer have to. The rhythm continues, holding everything, including you, in its quiet equilibrium.